focused note process is made up of 5 steps: creating notes, processing notes, connecting thinking, summarizing and reflecting, and applying learning. The first thing you need to do is determine which format will work best. You can choose Cornell Note form, which has the basic information on the top, questions on the left-hand column, and content on the right. You can choose 3-column, which is broken up into 3 columns at the top and can be specified by teacher or student. Another option is using a flow chart. These can be especially helpful when working through a process. Regardless of the format, every note will have the same information at the top, including name, date, class, period, and essential question, which allows students to consider what is the point of taking these notes and what are they hoping to answer. The review and revise portion of notes may be the most important because it's what is allowing you to re-engage with the material. This allows you to edit any info, highlight important ideas or key details, create questions, and make sure that you are truly understanding what it is that you took notes on. So after going over the process, you may be thinking, this seems like a lot of work just to take some notes. So why do we take them? Psychologists would show that if you don't take notes, you're going to forget about 60% of everything you learned in up to 14 days. If you take some notes, you may remember 60% of that information for those 14 days. However, if you take focused notes, you will remember 90 to 100%, assuming you are re-engaging with the material and following the process.
Yourself about now. Hey, Cornell Note video maker guy, what does repetition have to do with my life? I'm glad you asked. What you're looking at here is a graph called the rate of forgetting, which comes from research by a German statistician named Hermann Ebbinghaus. And what this data shows is that with any type of information, after our initial interaction with that information, our retention of that is going to go down to 60, 50, 40, even down to 30% retention from where we initially started, which is pretty bad news, except that with a first repetition of that material, we can bump our retention all the way back up to close to 100%, and then it's going to go down even slower than it did before. And as it starts to fade away in our brain again, we can bump it up with a second repetition, and then continue bumping it up with a third, fourth, and fifth repetition where that level of retention stays really high. So why this is good news is that if you had a test, say right here around day 8, if all you had was your initial interaction with that material, you would expect to have less than 40% retention, and you would probably expect to fail that test. But if we had gone back and gotten a first repetition of that information, then our retention is significantly higher, although it's still below 60%. But with the second repetition, now I'm up above 70%. I would expect to pass that test. And if I had even gotten a third repetition, my retention level is above 90%. I would probably have enough knowledge to make an A on that test. So that kid that sits with you in your pre-AP or honors class that always makes good grades, it's not just because they're smarter than you, it's because they figured out how to get multiple repetitions of the material. In AVID, we call this the 10-24-7 strategy, which means that within 10 minutes to 20 minutes of our initial interaction with information, we're going to get our first repetition. And as that information starts to fade away in our head, we're going to get our second repetition within about 24 hours, and then our third repetition within 7 days. So that when that test or assessment comes along, I'm ready to go. I know I have enough information to be able to get an A on that test.